Hello? Hello? I guess it's okay now. Mnasikia? Aya, mnanisikia? Aya, so we can start. Aya, I hope the others are okay now. Aya. So we can start. So we can start. And so we are going to do on communication. Communication. And as you're all aware, at least for last semester, we tried to cover the syllabus. So most what we are going to concentrate on is the revision part. And I want us to start with communication because most of you are not there last week. I want us to do with communication. So, and we said when talk about communication, it's a two-way, it's a two-way process of reaching a mutual understanding between the sender and the receiver. So when talk about communication, it's when you try to send a message to somebody, the receiver, and you expect him or her to understand the message that you have sent to him, and he or she is supposed to give you a feedback. That's what we call communication. So the next one, we're going to look at what is the importance of communication. How do people communicate? That's what we're going to look at, the importance of communication. And the first one we have, it's a source of information. If you communicate with the person, it's a way of passing an information. So it's a source of information. So when I want to pass an information to someone, what you use is what you call communication. It's a source of information. Then it's a way of socializing. Communicate with someone, it's a way of socializing with him or her. If you maybe go to a face-to-face interaction with a person, it's a way of socializing with him or her. Then another one, it's a way of altering an individual attitude. You know, people have different attitudes. So when you do a communication, it helps you to alter the attitude or to change the attitude. Alter is the same as to change the attitude. Then another importance of communication, it promotes motivation. If you do proper communication with anyone, it's a way of promoting a good motivation between you and the receiver. That is what we call now to promote the motivation. Those are now the importance of communication between the sender and the receiver. Then the next one we are going to look at is the communication process. Communication process. And when talk about communication process, we said number one, you must be able to understand what is communication process, and we said the process must follow as a sequence, the stages. They must follow each other as the way they are. So you have what we call the communication process. So under communication process, you're going to find there are five, there are seven stages in the communication process. We have what we call the sender, the sender, we have then the idea, then we have encoding, we have the channel of communication, the receiver, decoding, and the feedback. That is now the communication process, and they must follow each other the way they are. So you are going to start to explain each and every stage. You must be able to explain the stages of the communication process. You must be able to explain each and every stage. And the first one, you have the sender. The first stage, you have the sender. And we say the sender is the person who intends to send a message. That's what we call the sender. the person who intends to send a message to the receiver. That is the sender. Then we have the ideas. The ideas are now the subject of the communication. What do you want to send to the receiver? That is the subject of the communication. That is the idea. Then the next one we have what we call encoding. So when we talk about encoding, it's where you come up with a message. How do you put the message? Which language are you going to use? If you want to use pictures, which pictures are you going to use? That is now the encoding. Which symbols are you going to use in that communication? For example, you're going to do an oral communication. Which symbols are you going to use? Which actions, which pictures are you going to use in the process? If you're going to use like a letter, which words are you going to use when you're doing a letter? That is what you call now the encoding. It's now you put the message into the way that you want it to pass to the receiver. Then after that, you have what we call the channel. And another name for a channel, we said it's a medium. You must be able to know which channel are you going to use when you are sending the message. You have already come up with the message. So which channel are you going to use when you are sending a message? Are you going to use the written form? Are you going to use the oral? Are you going to use an email? So you look for a channel that you're going to use. And another name for a channel of said it's a medium. How are you going, which medium are you going to use to pass the information to the receiver? That is the channel. Then you have the receiver. After the receiver is the person that you intended the message to reach him or her. That is the receiver. The person who receives the message is what was the receiver. The person that we are sending the message to is the receiver. Then after the receiver, we have what we call decoding. When we talk about decoding, it is the receiver interpretation of the message. Once you have sent a message to the receiver, somebody receives the message, he or she interprets. So when we talk about the receiver, it's the receiver, sorry, the decoding is the receiver's interpretation of the message. In cases like if you send somebody a letter, he or she is going to read that letter. Then at the end of the day, he is supposed to interpret it. That is what we call now decoding, the interpretation part. Or if you send a person an SMS, the way he or she interprets it is what we call the decoding. So after decoding, we have what we call feedback. Once the receiver receives a message, he or she may reply to you depending with the message. You know, for example, if you get an SMS, uh, some require a feedback. So the feedback from the receiver to the sender again, depending with the message. If the message requires a feedback, the receiver must do a feedback to the sender. That is now the communication process. You must be able to know each stage and also explain them. There are the 7 stages. You have the sender. We have talked about the ideas, encoding. You have the channel. You have the receiver. You have the decoding, and then you have the feedback. The way you give the feedback to the receiver, to the sender. Sorry. That is now the communication process. Then after that, we're going to look at the forms of communication. So we find the forms of communication, there are mainly 3. We have the verbal or the oral communication, you have the written communication, and also the non-verbal communication. Those are the 3 main forms of communication. The oral is the same as the verbal, then we have the written, then we have the non-verbal. So we are going to start with the first one, that is the oral or the verbal communication. So when talk about the verbal communication, it's where you communicate like face-to-face interaction between the receiver and the sender. You have a face-to-face communication. Like the example of an oral communication is like a speech. The people that you're talking to are able to see you and ask you questions directly. That's what you call the oral communication. Then we are going to look at the advantages. What are the advantages of talking to a person like on one, face to face, able to see each other? What are some of the advantages of that? And the first one you find it's time saving. You're going to save it's time saving when you want to do people. When you do an oral communication or a verbal, it saves you a lot of things because you just need to prepare something then and go and present it. And like the written, you are supposed to write a document. So the first one is time saving. Then the next one is cost saving. It also saves on cost as compared with written. Because one for written, you must have like you must incur cost, especially the cost of writing a letter, buying those all those what that required to write a letter, posting the letter. So it is also cost saving. You don't need to incur so much when you're doing an oral communication. Then the next one is immediate feedback. When you do an oral communication, you're going to get a feedback immediately. If you, for example, you're going to tell a person like a speech, at the end of the speech, they're going to ask you a question and they're going to get a feedback directly from them. So it is also an immediate feedback. You're able to get the feedback directly from them, from the receiver. Then it's a suitable message when you want clarification. A suitable method when you want a clarification. If you want to get clarification from your audience, the best method to use is what you call now the oral, because you talk to them and then you can also clarify points. In case they're not able to understand a certain point, they're able to clarify. Then the next one is so correction of errors. Sorry. So talk about correction of errors, it means if you're doing an oral communication or the verbal communication, in case you realize you have made an error somewhere, you can easily correct that error. If you're giving a speech, if you're talking to a group of people and you realize there's an error somewhere, you can easily correct that error. But it's like a letter or an SMS, once you have sent, it cannot be able to reverse it. So for the oral communication, able to correct errors in case you have made any during the communication process. Then the next advantage we have special applications. Special applications means when you're doing an oral communication, you can apply even the non-verbal communication. So it's able to apply other methods of communication. So when talk about special applications, you're able to apply other methods when you're doing an oral communication. Like for example, you can still use signs and symbols when you're still doing the oral communication. So it helps you to do what we call the special applications. These are some of the advantages of using the oral communication. So we are going to look at the disadvantages. The disadvantages, number one, no records. So the first one, it's so hard to keep the records for oral communication for future reference. So if at the end of the day, you go and give people a talk or a speech, but you don't have any record, you have not kept any record of what you have been doing. That is one of the disadvantage. Then distortion of words. Distortion of words. If distortion of words occurs in oral communication, then the main goals of them may not be filled. Distortion of words, you say you use the wrong words during the oral communication. If you use a wrong word, it means the message will not be delivered effectively to the receivers. That is now the distortion of words. Then the next limited use. So when talk about the limited use, you cannot use oral communication. There are places that are unable to use and oral communication. The use is also limited to the food that they're going to say. Then the next one is the possibility of omitting the main subject. What the main subject is, you have a time where you may not be able to know what the main objective or the main message that you want to deliver during the oral. Sometimes we go with that with a lot of maybe stories. So at the end of the communication, you find the main aim or maybe the main subject you have not been able to get or maybe delivered to the receiver. The next one we have lack of secret. We talk about the lack of secret. It means at times lack of secret means at times you may find you may not be able to keep a secret when you want to gather an oral message. So you may find at times you may find that you want to pass a certain find you are not able to communicate as other people because you're talking to a large group of people. How to call the lack of coming together. So those are some of the disadvantages of using the oral communication. So we have looked at the first form of communication, and that one is what we call now the oral communication. And the oral communication, I have said, is the same as the verbal communication. So under the oral communication, make sure you know what is oral communication, which are some of the examples of oral communication. Make sure you know the advantages of oral communication and also the disadvantages of oral communication. So the second type of form of communication you're going to look at is what we call now the written communication. The first one was oral communication. So number two, we have the written communication. So when talk about written communication, it's where you pass a message to the receiver by use of written documents. That is now what we call the written communication. You pass an information through a written form. That is the written communication are like the SMS, examples of written communication. So we're going to look at the advantages. What are the advantages of easy to preserve? You know, once you have sent a message, you can easily preserve it for future reference. So if you want to send a message, you can easily go back to what now the proper information. So when you're using a when you're using a written, you are able to keep do a proper communication. It may take time before you send that. So for Malcolm, Aya, so we can continue. They're looking at the advantages of written communication. And the easy to preserve, can preserve
You are currently the only person in this conference. You are currently the only person in this conference. You are currently the only person in this conference. You are currently the only person in this conference.